This podcast is brought to you by Always Possible.
alwayspossible.co.uk.
Welcome to the Possibility Club podcast from Always Possible. This new series is about practical bravery. It's about not just talking, but doing. It's about being famous for what you change, not just what you sell or how many followers you have on Instagram. I'm Richard Freeman, and my guests in this series will be all sorts of people. Some you'll have heard of, some you won't. From business, politics, charity sector, arts, sport, but all with a clear story of what happens when you do something bigger than yourself and you get out of your own way. About the moments people learned how to define, measure and communicate their mission, and how they knew it was making the world that little bit better. This episode is about responsible hustling. In the frenetic world of startups, incubators and the hunt for the next tech unicorns, a culture of 24/7 grafting is often promoted as the only way to make it big. Especially in the great cities and in the knowledge economy, working long hours has become the norm, doubled if you dare to try and run your own business. But agile, fast-paced entrepreneurialism is also where some of the highest impact, socially progressive 21st century ideas are taking hold. In AI, the experience economy, social sharing and data-driven mapping, amongst many others, are where the world feels like it's changing fast, with sustainability, well-being and inclusion driving business models just as much as the quest for a quick buck. I run a small and growing business, but just thinking about some of the unwritten codes that underpin hustle culture exhaust me. But some of it's exciting, and some of it's very worrying. What if the intensity and nimbleness that comes with that is the only clear route to proper social and economic reform? A business mindset that moves fast and breaks stuff, rebuilds and rethinks quickly, fails fast and fails cheap so that more time is spent on what works, or might be able to make change happen in ways that vast corporates and top-heavy public services can never do. The worst of hustle culture is a toxic, mentally straining alpha bullshit race in which carnage is left in a trail behind the winner, whatever winning is. But the best of it is in the drive to continually innovate and to respond to need. It might not be that strategic, but it gets things done and it moves things on. Sometimes that is exactly the energy needed to start something big and good. So my question to people in businesses and charities listening to this: what could you do to harness more of the best of it when you're driving forward impact, whilst avoiding the negative behaviour? My special guest this week has just published a book called How Not to Fuck Up Your Startup. He's very driven, he's very sweary, and he's entirely enthused by the hard work, high reward energy of the modern entrepreneur. He is a doer. Yet he's also deeply passionate about legacies of mentoring and paying it forward, helping others up the ladder, and about social mobility through investment. As an angel investor, he only supports female entrepreneurs. I cannot find anyone, let alone another male investor, who holds this as a sound principle. So here we go, a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, host of the Back Yourself Show podcast, and CEO of Stakester. Meet Tom Fairey. Hello. It's 2023, and this is the Possibility Club podcast. Those things you knew, they're sort of simple facts. But what you might not know is that we're looking through a slightly different lens this year with the pod. What are the individuals and organisations that are pioneering and being brave with putting some new ideas into the world that might be a bit disruptive? Some of them might fail, but some of them might lead us to some interesting new places, and why not? In times of turmoil, why not take those risks? And I'm really, really delighted to be joined by, I think, someone who's got a lot to say about kind of what the potential for good business can look like here. And that's Tom Fairey. And Tom is the founder of Stakester. He's the author of How Not to Fuck Up Your Startup, which is a brilliant title for a book. And we're going to explore Tom's philosophy on life. How are you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm good, actually. Yeah, I am. As you were introducing me there, I was worried that I was going to sneeze midway through. So first of all, I'm happy that I survived that moment of peril and delighted to be on the show.
So whatever happens next, we've already succeeded.
Yeah.
There's already been a moment of of satisfaction.
Yeah.
So it feels that I should ask how your kind of turn of your year went. You know, how have you bounded into 2023? Are you optimistic or are you worried?
Yeah. Yeah. Getting straight into it for any job or if you have a career or you run your own business or you're a solo entrepreneur or you run a successful startup or you're a founder of a really established business that's been going for a long time, the one thing that doesn't change in any of those roles is mindset. And mindset is really the key for success in any area. And the great thing about New Year is that everyone comes into the new year with a renewed mindset and a new positivity. And I love January. 2022 was a hard year. A lot of people came through 2022 having, you might have lost employees, you might have lost your job. Your business might have gone bust. It's been really hard, specifically in my space, in the early stage startup space, where people were trying to raise capital was incredibly difficult because markets were down. And it's a really rough year for a lot of people, but we're still here and we survived. And that's what I think is great. And I think January was, you remind yourself like, yeah, last year I survived. And I think we need to change our mindset from a survival mindset last year to a growth mindset, to one that starts focusing on, look, there's an amazing saying that I've come across recently when it comes to investment. When you make an investment, the most you can lose is 1x. So if you have that mindset of, look, stop being defensive, stop worrying about loss, stop worrying about like what could go wrong, worry about what could go right and worry about how massive things could be. And I think I've come into this year really feeling that. I'm feeling that energy. And so I feel very, very blessed to be around a community of people who are sharing that same energy as well.
Fantastic. I'm really interested in this idea of the kind of growth mindset, which, it's actually something that came out of education initially. Have you read the book by Carol Dweck that sort of kicked it all off?
I know the book you're talking about, and I feel shamefully uneducated for not having read it, but I know the book you're talking about.
Well, the concepts aren't rocket science, so I think most people know what she's getting at. The approach behind it really is focused on quite young children. It was a guide for teachers, essentially, how to not limit the possibilities of young children, or how not to, from a young age, get them to be already putting labels or boxes or self-limiters on themselves because of who they are, where they come from, or what society says they're likely to end up doing. And I think it's fascinating that has such a big role to play in business, as you talk, as you've been talking about, in how we as now kind of professional adults, whatever our mission is, start a new year and start to think about what boxes are we putting ourselves in, what labels are others putting us on, and how do we disrupt that. So I want to explore that in a minute in a bit more detail. But my first question to you is, what do you do? And then what do you really do?
So, okay, right. So technically, I am the founder of Stakester. I'm a second-time founder. And for those who don't know what a founder is someone who starts a business from nothing and builds it up. My previous company that I was a founder, I was part of a team, but that's now a unicorn. So I'm very blessed to still be there. I haven't sold yet, so I haven't become a squilly there, but it's still been a very successful ride. And my own company, Stakester, in the gaming space, we've gone from being just an idea on a napkin to being the biggest in the world of what we do in just over 3 years, which I'm very proud of. Aside from that, I also am a very active investor, and also I run a podcast called The Back Yourself Show, and I'm an author of the book, How to Not Fuck Up Your Startup. Now, that's what I do on paper. That's technically my job and
CV.
My life. But what do I do? Ultimately, that's my CV, yeah. I say to people all the time, like, it's a really good question. Like, I have basically two talents, or things that I'm good at. Talent's probably a bit of a myth, but I think there are two things that I'm good at and I work hard at and get better at. And those things just disperse into other areas of my life. Really, two things. I'm a good judge of talent and I'm a good motivator. And that's essentially what it is. And so I find myself, trying to find great talent and great people and gravitating towards them and just trying to surround myself with people who are excellent. I'm addicted to people who I think are undernourished in their career, people who I think could do a lot better have been ignored. I love those people. And that tends to be where my investments go. Like, so for example, I exclusively invest in female-led businesses because that's where I think there's not enough money, not enough capital, but you find amazing people in that space. And then I'm just really a motivator. Like my job, I rock up every single day and I should only be making about 5 or 6 decisions a year in my business. But my job there, really in my business, is to make sure that everyone knows what the mission is, stick on that course, and every day, kind of, fuck, I'm not where I wanted to be. But I'm like, yeah, but they're still fucking amazing. Let's keep going. We're going to make it better. And it's that kind of drive and that energy that really makes us grow. And I think that's really what I do. And so by being, when you people talk about motivator, it makes you sound like a public speaker or some kind of crazy evangelical pastor in America. But like what you're really doing is you're basically just taking a lesson that you've had from someone else and repurposing that lesson to try and motivate someone to do something.
I'm fascinated that you're only invested for female founders. I think that's extraordinary and brilliant. My team have recently run a number of kind of funded business support programs, particularly for female founders in parts of the country where there really is no sort of strong network or infrastructure, or as you say, access to finance. So we've been doing quite a lot of work to try and build sort of communities of female founders to leverage a bit more of the kind of social and business capital. But that's a very kind of big decision to make for you to exclude probably at the moment about 80% of new startups.
Yeah. Well, look, you got to bear in mind, like, as an investor, so what you're really doing is you're trying to spot outliers. That's really what you're doing. Like, so if you make 10 investments, 9 of them are fucked. One of them though will pay back the success of the others, hopefully. And so if you start investing in what everyone else is investing in, and people always say like, oh, like I recently invested in a business. I invested in a business a long time ago, which was recently listed, but because of something called a liquidation preference, I ended up being one of the early stages. I ended up just about making my money back after 80 years.
Wow.
So like it's an absolute joke. Like it doesn't always work out as well as people think it does. Whereas, like when you come across a female founder who's really struggled to raise money, yet they've got an amazing business, and I don't know why they haven't been able to raise money. They just haven't. Those businesses, I'm just amazed by, and all these businesses, I just think they're amazing. And I think there's something about the people say to me like, why do you only invest in female founders? It's not actually just about the fact that it's not some kind of like measure for like me trying to make sure I get a direct pass into heaven. Like, the fact is, like, it is exponentially harder to raise money as a female founder. Fact. Okay. So if you are able to raise money as a female founder, by virtue of that, you are more resilient, you're more determined, you're just better than everyone else. And so the fact that I've even got to have a conversation with that person, you're already exceptional. And I want to be part of that ride. I want to be part of this journey with you, because I know that whatever else comes up, you're going to overpower it. There are so many male founders who just give up, even though it's easier for them. Okay. And I just think if we can find those people who've had a harder job to get there, and ultimately, like if you read books, like The Hard Thing About Hard Things, or 0 to 1, or The Cold Start Problem by Andrew Chen, if you read those books, they all go on and reiterate about the importance of resilience and grit being one of the most important characteristics of a founder. And no one exemplifies that more than a female founder that's been able to raise some capital, because damn, that's a hard journey.
Thomas, what do you want to be famous for? When you're in your dotage, you're 105, whatever, and you're looking back and people are talking about your business legacy. What would you want at the top of that list?
Okay, so let's talk about that word fame, okay, for a second. All right. So I have literally no interest in fame. I have no interest in being recognized. I've got no interest in like anything like that. What I do have interest in, now look, I'm second generation teacher. I'm not a teacher, but both my parents are teachers. My brother's a teacher. Everyone I grew up with around me was a teacher. And they were always like, they just have this sense of reward about getting something back from a kid who I remember once with my mum, we were in the supermarket, and this girl, Elaine, comes up to us who, my mum hadn't seen for like 20 years. And she's a consultant doctor now. My mum's just like, she's like, this is amazing. I'm so happy, because she was awful at school, but my mum got her through that and got her through A-levels and stuff like that. And that sense of reward's amazing. So I would love to be known within a small community of people. I would love to have a list of people that I have helped to, in some part, to help them on their journey to success. I would love someone to say, Tom, I read your book and that gave me the tools or the motivation to go and start my business. And now I've got time freedom. So I spend more time with my kids. I'd love for one of my investments to be, Tom, you helped me with this problem and that allowed me to do this. So in some part, I've helped them to achieve something. Because ultimately, that's worth so much more. And look, of course, like there is a financial benefit that comes from all those things. Like everyone wants it themselves. Obviously, I want to have financial and time freedom as well. But in terms of fame and reward, that's really where the magic happens. And yeah, people say it's altruistic. Fuck off. No, it's not. It just makes me feel like a fucking king. I don't care. I'm happy to admit that. I fucking love that. It's nothing better than like, someone's like, the other day I saw this campaign come up from my portfolio company. I was like, that was my idea. I felt fucking amazing. I'm not ashamed to admit that, but I would, and I don't think there's anything wrong with combined bragging. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's really what I would like to be known for. Also, I'd like to buy a rugby club at some point and be known for owning the rugby club. That's another thing entirely. That's my financial goal. Famous as the guy that, bought X rugby club and managed to win the Premiership with them.
Okay. So it went from I've no interest in being known at all to being a little bit known.
Yeah. There's a little bit there. There is something. Yeah, I had George Cruz on my podcast recently. I don't know if you're a rugby fan, but I should say to George, like, yeah, and we become good friends. I'm like, man, I actually really want to own a rugby club, and he's like, no, you don't. I was like, no, I really do. No, you don't. Yeah, exactly. I probably make more money as a podcast host than I would as a rugby club owner.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Of all the sports to get rich, I don't think one, but that doesn't sound necessarily the motivation there.
This podcast is brought to you by Always Possible. But who are we?
Always Possible works with ambitious businesses, charities, and public services that are thinking about what's next.
From architects to aerospace companies, puppet theatres to primary schools, business networks to big data analysts.
If you're wanting to be brave with some big decisions or to be clearer about what to prioritise, then an award-winning workshop from the Always Possible team is a brilliant starting point.
We care about just one thing: building ideas that work.
For creative, intuitive, and practical expertise, consider Always Possible as your strategic partner. Find out more about how we could power up your mission. Visit alwayspossible.co.uk.
alwayspossible.co.uk.
It's interesting, what you say, that feedback from people, the little bits of your input sort of magnified and amplified and turned into other people's successes. It's great when it happens, but is it kind of quite ad hoc, or do you look for that? Do you measure it? Do you think, okay, this year I've got some financial goals, I've got some feedback goals, I want to see X number of companies that I've invested in doing this. Do you put any kind of metrics behind that so that you can say, right, this year I've done 10% better than last year, or does it not work like that for you?
So I have a theory about this. Like, I don't actually believe in building goals. I believe in building habits. I think that the problem with goals are, as soon as you hit them, you're not satisfied. So I had this thing last year. I had this physical goal of I wanted to run 15K in an hour. Okay. Now, that doesn't make me an elite runner, but it is a challenge and it is hard. And I did achieve it. And I got to the end of it. I was like, all right. And I stopped running. Just stopped running last year. Right? I just didn't do it.
Big tick, job done.
Yeah, and it's just like, and actually, like, I got a lot of joy from running. I actually went out for a run the other day and was slow and fat and awful. But I had like, the goal was frustrating for me. Setting goals is a frustrating behavior because once you've hit that goal, what's next? There's just another goal. Now in business, it's slightly different. It is important to have these OKRs, but I think in life, what you should focus on is just building great habits. Okay, because then I find that if you build those habits, then you don't really know where that's going to be. Because when I set a goal for myself, I'm setting that goal based on who I am right now. Okay, I don't know who I'm going to be. Maybe I could have done it faster than now. I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like I'm setting myself these goals, but I don't know what I'm capable of. Right. So if I just build a habit, then you start to learn about it as you go. What I do is I say to myself, right, okay, I'm going to build a habit of separating a certain percentage of my income aside for investments. Now, last year was a terrible year for me, investments, because historically my habit was I would always invest 50% of my crypto profits. Last year, that didn't happen. But you have these habits, and so you build that habit, and you come from that. And the other habit would be like, I make a habit of going to investor events. If I get invited, I make a habit of going. I don't set myself a target of going to 10. I set myself a habit of posting every time I get a learning about something, someone teaches me something about startups or life or anything, I get in the habit of sharing that with a community. And that's what I think. I think building those habits helps you to get somewhere. So I think like with my podcast, like I went through the habit of trying to release content all the time, building up that, because I go through the habit of recording and getting great guests. Mm-hmm. And we went from, at one point, we had over 200,000 listens to an episode, so we did incredibly well. And then, we stopped because for one reason or another, we went on pause because we wanted to restart it. But building habits leads to excellence and greater outcomes than you would have had initially if you just set yourself a goal.
That's really fascinating to hear that from an investor. I mean, I completely agree. And I'm always more excited by businesses, business leaders, business teams that are looking sustainably at behavior change and habit forming, as you say, and that sense of, well, who are we and how do we want to be, rather than what's the list of things that we can tick off and put in our, investor report, annual report, impact report, whatever, because that just becomes a list of things that have been done. And I don't know whether that's good or bad. It's a list of things that can be done. It's kind of neutral. Okay, you did it, but so what? But I think investors are sometimes part of the problem in terms of that, it's so obsessed with the metrics, the KPIs, the numbers, that actually it's that underlying behavior that's not always supported or challenged. So it's really refreshing to hear you talking about that. But do you see more of that in the world of investment?
If you're a full-time investor, probably not. I don't know, like it depends. I've got some really good mentors, and one of them, who I won't mention because he might not want me to, but he always says he's an investor in interesting things. I've got another one who just says, I want to invest in the best founders. So there's that kind of vibe. It's not, I'm going to write 10 checks this year. I'm going to invest this much money this year. It's like, get in the habit of meeting amazing people. Get in the habit of meeting amazing founders. And get in the habit of seeing great opportunities, trying to find great opportunities, and then investing in them. Just get in that habit, okay? Rather than getting in the like I'm not a full-time investor. I don't know. Like if it's my full-time job, I've got a friend who's a trader at M&G, and obviously he's got to be incredibly metrics driven because it's someone else's money, right? But it's my money, right? And it's not a lot. Like I'm not particularly affluent, but it's enough to put me in the privileged position where I can write some checks, but it's like, but you do that and you just got to focus. You just got to be like, focus on the person, focus on trying to meet those people. And people complain to me and say, oh, where'd you get your deal flow? I just meet people all the time. Mm-hmm. A habit of meeting people. And you're going to meet them. There's a lot of rubbish people out there. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of people who are very good. But you occasionally meet people and it's like, and then get in the habit of executing, get in the habit of trusting your instincts, get in the habit, because all you are as a human is just the sum of all your habits, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll be proven right and this will make me in. But it certainly makes me happier. Yeah. Because I'm not getting annoyed with myself by being like, oh, damn it, I haven't written enough checks this year. Damn it, I haven't done enough posts. Damn it, I haven't got enough listens on my podcast. Yeah, that's not helping anyone. Yeah. So you just get in the habit of excellence.
If you retired tomorrow, you're like, right, actually, I had enough of this game. What do you think would be missed most?
I think that the best measure of a leader is how well people perform when you're not there. Like with my kids, the best measure of how good a parent I am is how well behaved they are when I'm not in the room.
Yeah.
Not how well I'm behaved when they are. So they're always naughty when they're in front of you. They're always just pushing buttons. But when I get a report back from a parent's house, oh, they were so polite, they're so well, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. Good parenting. And it's the same with your business. Like if I'm not there and the business doesn't operate, it's because I've done a bad job. Mm. I haven't set up the right processes, the right protocols, the right behaviors they can operate. So what I would hope is that if I retired tomorrow, I don't believe in retirement. I believe in changing career. But like, say for example, if tomorrow I changed career and left the startup world, my hope is that no one would feel the impact. They just carry on. And that's not because I'm insignificant. It's because I've done a good enough job of preparing people to do their jobs independently.
Something very self-aware in that I think is quite interesting. How many kids have you got?
2, 3, and 5, and they are equally wonderful and absolute dickheads at the same time.
Oh yeah, 3 and 5. Yeah, because they'll be best of friends and worst of enemies quite a lot.
Correct. What about yourself?
2, but bit older and a bit of a bigger age gap. So 13 and 8.
Oh wow,
yeah.
That is an age gap.
Yeah, well, we thought that was smart originally. Kind of building on what you said there, really. We thought if we nail the first one and if we get them right, then really they'll be able to bring up the second one, and they'll be able to instill all of these wonderful parenting philosophy. Right. Yeah, bollocks. Does not work like that. They're two such completely different human beings. And at 13 and 8, there is very, very little they have in common. So you can't even agree on a day out or a film to watch.
Because right now, like they watch this, my kids. They watch the same stuff on TV. They do the same stuff. Like it's fine. It's just a lot of work. Yeah.
But that self-awareness, I think, it does come through parenting. It does, come through founding businesses as well. Is that sense of you can have a grand vision for this kind of this way of operating, but you've got to be nimble on your feet and flexible to it, and you've got to constantly question whether you've got that right. And I think that's part of the process, isn't it? It's part of the journey. Is
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
My kind of last question is about communication, really. So you've written a book, you're a podcast host, you're a guest on podcast. Delighted to have you on mine today. What do you think is the most effective, kind of channel for communicating what you do and what you believe? But also, maybe some of the tips or techniques in getting that message across. Some people pick one phrase and you'll only ever hear them say that one thing forever. Others adapt and move it a bit and use analogies and have different ways. So what are your tools for getting across what you believe in?
I'm a reservist in the army, okay? And you have a very diverse group of people in that community. And you had there's 2 lessons that I've learned. First lesson I learned from the army is about being clear and concise. Don't fuck about with your message. Just be very clear and concise. And so if you do have a very diverse audience of people with lots of different backgrounds and lots of different perceptions, clear and concise will always win. But if you're presenting to an audience that have a similar background, similar education, similar careers, whatever, so you're in your business, okay, clear and concise isn't always what they want. Okay, sometimes they want detail, sometimes they want a bit of flair. And when you're in that situation, I think the best advice you can ever give anyone is get out of your own fucking head. Stop thinking about how you want to be presented to. No one gives a fuck about that. Okay, think about how they want to be presented to. Think about your audience. Think about what they're going through. Think about their pain. Think about their struggles. It's easy for me here as a founder who's hyper motivated and doesn't struggle to get up out of bed in the morning to go and say, get up, make your bed, do some fucking push-ups, have a cold shower, have your coffee, send 25 emails, and it's only 25 past fucking 5, and everyone else is a dickhead. That's easy for me to say because that's who I am, okay? But when I've got my team of 30 people just sat there in front of me, and some of them are like graduate plus 30 seconds, and the thought of getting up at 5 a.m. to them just gives them heart palpitations. It's like you've got to get yourself out of your own head. Put yourself on the other side of the table. Think about what they're going through. Think about the things that they worry about. Because I worry about big picture problems, whereas I've got some of my marketing team and they're caring about tiny little metrics that I can give a fuck about. I don't know what they mean. Okay. You've got to put yourself on that side of the table. Okay. And that's the best advice I think whenever you communicate. Communicate for I know it sounds so obvious, but people forget about it all the time. Communicate about that audience. What do I think the best channels for communicating are? This is just like classic 101 basic, but people forget about it. Stop talking where your audience isn't. Okay. Right. Recently, someone said to me, "Is like, Tom, do you want to do some promotion to your book? We can promote it to a Facebook group." And I was like, "What? Because 60-year-old groups of, like, I don't know, people I've never fucking heard before. Like, who the fuck who's in a fucking Facebook group? Like, what are you talking about? That's not my audience. Nothing wrong with a Facebook group. That's not where my people are." Okay. Stop communicating areas where you're not. Okay. Where your audience isn't. For me, my audience are on TikTok and on LinkedIn. They're also on Twitter, but I just cannot get my head. I just don't do it. It's just awful. Yeah, I'm so afraid of being cancelled on Twitter. That's my fear. It's the feedback that freaks me out on Twitter. Yeah, it's the fact that I know I'm self-aware enough to know that I will say the wrong thing, and if you don't see my smiling face and jovial attitude when I say it, it's going to come across the wrong way. It's the beauty of LinkedIn. You don't say shit that's offensive on LinkedIn because it's just not the place for it. And on TikTok, you can see me when I'm saying it. Those things really help out. You don't have that option on Twitter. No. That's why I'm always very skeptical of Twitter, because there's a real opportunity for things to be taken the wrong way. So that's my advice.
I think that's interesting. I'm interested in what you say about the sort of, you have that ultra motivation, the sort of, get shit done before 5 a.m, blah, blah, blah. And I felt that in the last year, there's been a lot of that on a place like LinkedIn. There's been a lot of hustle culture. Here's my daily routine. I saw one the other day saying, if you earn less than $200,000 a month or something, then you should be ashamed of yourself. And there's a lot of kind of should. If you're not this, then who are you?
Yeah.
And more recently, I've sensed quite a bit of a backlash against that. People saying, hold on a minute. This isn't the forum for that, because I can't see you. I don't know who you are. I don't know what your credentials are. And stop telling me what to do. And I just wondered if you'd come across any of that in your work.
Yeah, so all the time. I notoriously get referred to but as toxically positive. And I'll take that. So look, I like hustle culture. I like it. I always say to people all the time when they talk about work, I just use an analogy of an athlete. Do you think anyone said to Kobe Bryant when he was turning up in the gym at 4 a.m. in the morning before he went training, they said, "Oh, mate, you're working too hard. Those MVP awards and those titles that you're winning, they're not worth it, mate. You're just training too hard." No, fucking, do you know what I mean? It's just fucking bollocks, right? It's not like when Owen Farrell sat there after a game, just continue after training, still kicking constantly just to make yourself better. No one's saying to him afterwards, "Oh, mate, yeah, you're practicing too much. You're practicing too much. You're getting too good at this." Yeah, no one says that. But we have this weird thing about work where we feel like we can't say it. But the thing I have is, like, that's his choice. That's Kobe's choice. Simone Biles, when she's training for gymnastics and she stays in the gym for whatever time, that's her choice, what she does. No one else can tell her. Okay, no one can tell a musician how often they can play. No one can tell them. That's their choice. But for some reason, we have a problem with people doing it in business, and we have some thing whereby, like, we have to tell people how much they can work. Fuck you. Like, if I want to work from 5 until 10, that's my choice. Okay. And if I want the outcomes that I'm trying to achieve, I have to. Like, it's not ideal, right? It's not the perfect setup. And maybe it may not be great for work-life balance. Okay, but it's my choice. And I think the problem is where people say either direction, hustle culture is bad or hustle culture is good. It's not. It's neither. It's a choice. It's your choice. And it's not hustle culture, it's hustle choice. Okay. If you want to work as much as you fucking like, do it. If 200 grand a month is what you're working towards, high five to you, mate. Good on you. Okay. All right. But if what you're working towards is a modest salary and, you live in a modest house and you get to spend a fuckload of time with your kids and play Dungeons and Dragons in the evening, fucking high five. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, it's your choice. Don't let anyone else tell you how much you can work or how little you can work. It's your choice. But the outcomes will come from either one. You're not going to be sensationally rich if you don't hustle. You're just not, unless you've got rich parents. But, like, you're not going to be sensationally rich if you don't hustle. And also, you're not going to be sensationally happy if you hustle. And you're not going to have loads of time freedom, right? And so it's up to you.
Surely the goal really is autonomy and that kind of self-awareness to know what choices you want to make.
Yeah, and you've got to get yourself in the position whereby you are. I mean, like, we talk about happiness all the time and what is happiness. Happiness, I think, is just personal satisfaction, right? It's just being happy with it, it's just being satisfied with what you've done. That's really what happiness is. When you wake up in the morning and you've done something that you're proud of, like that feels great. When you hang out with people that you like hanging out with, that feels good because you've achieved a good friendship group. When you hang out with your kids and they're behaving well, it feels great. That's happiness. Right? When you get to spend time with someone that you love because you've worked hard to build a relationship, that's happiness. So happiness is just the outcome of doing something you're proud of. And so you just got to give yourself the opportunity to do that. And if someone else is telling you when and where you can do that, you're never going to get it.
I'm always skeptical of happiness. I gave a speech at a wedding once. I was asked to give a talk.
Sounds terrible when you say, I don't like happiness. I bet they regretted it.
It was a risk. It was a risk because I was down on happiness. But my point was, and I think it got through, was that actually, really, it's about a good life, not necessarily a happy life.
Yeah.
Happy suggests you can't be sad, you can't be angry, you can't have shit days, you can't learn from failure. And I think, no, that's really important. And a good life is one that's actually about autonomy, mastery. It's about self-awareness. It's about feeling good about what you're doing. It's about feeling good because you're helping others do what they want to do in empowerment. But it's also about having light and shade. It's about recognizing that you made some really bad choices, but knowing that and owning it is also just as important as being happy all the time. So what does 2023 offer for you, Thomas? Have you got any more public projects and things?
Well, my book comes out in 2 weeks on the 12th, which I'm very excited about. I'm a first-time author, not self-published. It's actually published. So I'm very proud of that. Went the hard way, and it was hard, and so I'm very proud of that. I look forward to it, and I hope some people are helped from it. I don't set targets. Yeah, I would like to go the whole year and look back at the whole year, and instead of looking at it like I did last year, I was like, fuck, I survived that. I'm still here. Right, I don't want to do that. I want to get to the end of the year and be like, fuck yeah. Okay, I did this, and this. And I feel better. And so I think that's what I want to, I want to focus on consistency. I want to focus on growth. And that's it. I don't know where that's going to take me. I don't know. But if I just focus on it every day, I know I'll get somewhere at the end of the year that I never anticipated I would be at the beginning.
Sounds exciting. Well, good luck. And
thank you very much. Thank you very much. And to you.
We'll put links to the book in the podcast notes and to
thank you very much.
Tom's website, etc. But thank you so much for being part of the Possibility Club, sharing a bit of your restless energy with us.
Well, look, it's been great to be on here. Thanks so much, Richard. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Possibility Club, Practical Bravery. If you enjoyed this episode, do like, share, review, tell everybody about it. Look in the show notes for all the details of today's guest, stuff we talked about, stuff that's of interest, new things to read, new things to listen to. And if you are running a business or a charity and you are trying to accelerate or improve the impact that you have in the world, if you want to be famous for what you do and what you change rather than just what you sell, then talk to us. alwayspossible.co.uk. We want to hear from you, we want to talk to you, we want to amplify and elevate your ideas, and who knows, we might be able to help you feel more confident and clear about what's next. alwayspossible.co.uk. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new special guest and a new insight on practical bravery in action.
The Possibility Club is an Always Possible podcast. The interviewer was Richard Freeman for Always Possible, and the producer and editor was me, Chris Thorpe-Tracy, for Lo-Fi Arts. Have a good week.
alwayspossible.co.uk